Welcome everyone into the session of the Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. First on our agenda this evening, Lauren, is Jim Garrity back?
Yep, right.
Okay. So first on the agenda this evening, we have a vote for a notice of intent for 92 Randall Road. This was the hearing that we had closed out last time. We had discussed, gave Lauren and Rebecca a chance to draw up the NOI. That said, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the notice of intent for 92 Randall Road, DEP file number 112-0767 as drafted and submitted this evening, inclusive of the following conditions: that erosion and sediment controls along the limit of work between resource area and project area be established on site, and that stabilization of site within 2 growing seasons to meet the 75% success rate for growth covering area. Do I hear a second for issuing said NOI?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Sue?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well. All right. So our next actual hearing tonight is at 7:20, and we're going to need to give them time. I'm not sure if the applicant or their reps are here tonight, but I know we need to give them time at least to get in. Lauren, is Drew on with us this evening?
I was just taking a look through to see.
Yeah.
Not seeing him with us.
All right, because I know we do have the discussion for the Taggart Trail system on tonight that we could take out of order. Give him another 14 minutes. But I hate to go into it. If Drew was planning to come and talk or want to be a part of it, I hate to start with that.
He hadn't confirmed either way, so I'm
Okay.
not sure if he was planning on it.
Okay. How much time do we have? I mean, we could get.
We have meeting minutes.
I was going to say, wow, yeah, we have 2 big discussions left, and that's about it. All right. So in the packet, right, both the March 3rd and March 17th minutes are in there. Right. Yes. All right. So for commission members, did people have a chance to read through the minutes from the March 3rd and March 17th meetings? If so, any edits, corrections, changes? If not, anybody need more time to read through the minutes? Gonna make a motion that we approve the minutes for our March 3rd, 2026 and March 17th, 2026 meetings as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for minutes?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Sue.
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well. I can also mention that when it comes to enforcement order updates, 30 North Road, I think Rebecca had put it in the notes, though, that they did come back and provide preliminary information to confirm basically what the fee category, the filing fee was under. And I think Rebecca and Lauren gave them that information, but they're in the process of trying to submit something to bring themselves back into compliance. So that is moving along. It's on the conservation land. I will say, and I can say again at the end of the meeting, that we have Environmental Day related events. There are a number of them on the calendar. If you go to the Bolton Conservation Commission section of the town's website. They are listed there. Whoops. Anything new on trail stewardship? And that's, I think, most of the other announcements that we had. We still have 2 discussions tonight, and then we're going to talk 455 Sugar Road. But as I said, they weren't on the agenda until 7:20, so we need to give them that time to get here.
Yeah, I think we're here, and also our Ryan is
Oh.
here as well.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Excellent. All right. In that case, we can probably start early. In that case, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, considering the notice of intent for 455 Sugar Road, DEP file number 112-0766. So I think say it's Ryan here.
Ryan's here. Yes. Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Yep.
Sorry. When last we left it, I know we had asked you guys for basically more information around a planting plan to provide that. You guys were able to do that. Went through, saw how you had broken it out. I think Rebecca, our conservation agent, was fairly comfortable with it. And Ryan, she may have reached out to you. I think she had some like small outstanding questions. Basically you had listed the number of trees and kind of where they would be, but she just wanted to see if you could do any kind of clarity on the proposed sizes.
Yes, I can. And we did not submit anything relative to this, but I can speak to it at the time.
Yeah.
All of which hopefully is consistent with other projects you've seen. But for the shrubbery size, we're proposing a number 3 container, which is a 3-gallon pot. This will be 18 to 24 inches in height at the time of planting. Those are the shrubs. Again, that's pretty consistent with other landscape plans that we've worked on.
Yep.
Regarding the trees, we're proposing a 1.5 to 2 inch caliper for the red maple. All of these trees will be balled and burlapped. The eastern white pines, we're proposing 4 to 5 feet in height at the time of planting. And the American arborvitaes, we're proposing a height of 3 to 4 feet in height at the time of planting. And I think that was the last item that was kind of outstanding from Rebecca. She just wanted to make sure that that was included in any motion.
Yeah. Yep. And I was going to say had that down. The other one was the total alteration, the total square footage alteration.
Oh, within the riverfront, you mean?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Within the riverfront area.
Yep. I didn't realize she asked that. Let me pull that information up here. Bear with me, please.
Go ahead.
So with the preferred alternative, the overall collective riverfront disturbances within your 225-foot brick offset is 6,408 square feet, and that's within the 225.
Yeah. Okay. No, I know she was just looking for that to go within the conditions.
Sure.
So what the established alteration of riverfront square footage was, in case there were any projects proposed in the future, we would show what's already been disturbed, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that said, were there any other questions or comments from members of the commission from anything that Brian had submitted since last time, specifically the planting plan? Seeing none. Okay. Everybody comfortable with the plan as it stands, do we think? Okay. So Ryan, we'll probably close tonight, but issue next meeting just so they can write the whole thing up.
Okay.
I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Would you prefer we close tonight and then we'll just vote next time, or would you prefer we keep it open in case anything new pops up? I don't think anybody had any additional questions. I think you gave us everything you already had proposed. But
Yeah, I think at this point, if the commission's comfortable, and it seems like after all the back and forth, everyone seems to be comfortable, we would appreciate if you were willing to close it tonight, that we do
Perfect.
so.
okay. And
Thank you.
commission members comfortable with that as well, closing tonight, letting Lauren and Rebecca write it up and then just vote it up or down next meeting. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. All right. In that case, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 455 Sugar Road DEP file number 112-0766. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Sue,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well. All right, and then as we said, we're going to take no action on it tonight. We'll vote on this at the next meeting, which will be the 21st.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
No, thank you. Thanks for getting all that information, and that was great.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Have a good night.
All right, take care. It's supposed to be 7:20. We could, whoops. All right, we could probably start talking about the Taggart Trail if people wanted. I know a bunch of us went out on the site visit. So Rebecca was looking for basically clarification. Sorry, I know she had put some things in the annotated agenda on which way we wanted to go. Basically, we had those two options. What Drew was proposing of it looks like the bridge option is completely out. It was just unworkable for the area. Excuse me, where it would need to go. We talked about you could still kind of put a trail through there and put some warning signs up, something along those lines. Rebecca had recommended that we go with the street route, going more out that way. A lot of it on just ecological grounds or conservation grounds. Just seeing the area, we have a very small area where we need to cross. Very prone to erosion, basically the way that it would come down, depending on what kind of infrastructure they do. We still have that problem with the irregular flooding. And I think we saw out in the field how it scours that's some like that water comes down at a very, very fast rate. So not sure. She was looking for clarification one way or the other. Do we want to go forward with submitting an NOI for a trail plan that takes the route kind of across the stream, or the one that goes more out towards the road? I'm trying to think if she had written it some ways.
Her camera and mic's still off, so she may not be back yet, Brian.
Yeah, no, I had asked her to come back for
I'm
the
here.
dog park at least. Oh, okay.
You
all right.
need me?
No, we were just kind of just discussing Taggart.
Yep.
And what the two real options we're kind of looking at tonight, or we have been looking at, is do we want a trail to go basically across the stream in that one area, or do we want the trail to come out to the roadway? And kind of doing that determination first. And then based off that determination, we can figure out how we want an NOI submitted, or if we want an NOI submitted, et cetera. Just curious if commission members had strong thoughts or feelings one way or the other.
Yeah, so I would love the bridge option, but I think the street option just makes more sense. Again, just from the flooding or the flooding scars that we saw.
Yep.
And just brief clarification, the arrow pointing to the old cart path, that's a general note about accessing it through the open space parcel to the road, not crossing private property, obviously.
Other thoughts, comments from people? Yes. I tend to fall in similar to what Sue said. And again, like the bridge wasn't workable, but just the amount of erosion I can picture trying to do a different type of crossing there, even if that's ignoring the kind of safety concerns, like to see that flooding was pretty serious down there. I think, conservation wise, it's probably best going with the road approach, going down with the trail that goes closer to the road, looping people back up on the other side. It's kind of where I came down after that. Other thoughts?
No, I agree, Brian. The
Yeah.
road option is probably the better option.
I would tend to agree as well.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like we're recommending the option going towards the road. All right. So that's it. Then it's going to be a question of how to word submitting the NOI. Let me ask actually quickly, Rebecca, is there more information you would need other than us discussing this tonight? And we can do a roll call vote if you would like, or we'll probably do a vote to authorize you to issue an NOI.
Yep. So
right.
it would be not to issue, to submit.
Not to submit. Yeah.
Yep, because we have to work out the full scope, actually map it out physically in the ground.
Right.
And yes, we will still require an NOI because both the footpath and then crossing over the culvert adjacent to the roadway still is jurisdictional. So it will
Yep.
come before the commission in much more detail and full scope. But you're correct, just authorization to submit the NOI and authorization to apply
grant.
for any related grant
Yep.
opportunities along with the Bolton Conservation Trust, who is interested in moving this project forward.
Yep. Okay. All
Brian,
right.
just a question.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Scott.
So I think you answered my question, Rebecca, but just want to make sure, does the Conservation Trust, who's, my understanding is funding the path, they're comfortable with the proposal of the road as an alternative?
That is what I was gathering from Drew. We're waiting on the commission to weigh in on how you would like it to be approached, seeing as the scope of the bridge was not feasible both financially and scale due to the width of it to span the resource areas on site. And so the next proposal was the stepping stones. The commission went back out, reviewed it. Drew was present, who represents the Bolton Conservation Trust during those visits. And at no point did he relay that the Bolton Conservation Trust was no longer interested in supporting the project. So you are correct to my understanding, but I don't have a direct yes or no, if that makes sense, Scott.
And I would think I would
It
say
does,
too,
thank you.
if for some reason we did issue an order of conditions and the trust didn't want to move forward with it, after 3 years, the order would just go. I mean, it would be whatever. It would expire after 3 years, and there would be no penalties for us taking no actions, basically. Other questions, comments, thoughts? Seeing none. All right. I'm gonna make a motion that the Bolton Conservation Commission authorizes our conservation agent to submit a notice of intent on behalf of the commission, represented by the Conservation Trust, for the creation of a trail on the Taggart Conservation Land, as presented at this evening's meeting, and also authorize the conservation agent to work with either independently or in concert with the trust, or aid the trust in pursuing any appropriate grant funding opportunities. Do I hear a second for approving NOI submittal and grant funding OKs?
Second,
All those in favor, starting with Sue.
aye.
Paul,
I
Scott,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well. All right. Next up this evening, our continuing discussion on possibly updating the dog recs on conservation lands rules and regulations, specifically related to the Bower Springs Conservation Area. As a reminder from last time, we've been dealing with the basically the issue of a lot of dogs off leash on the Bower Springs Conservation Area, where it's starting to become a conservation issue. It's been an issue with some abutters. There's a lot of discussion. A lot of people like to be able to use the park, like to be able to use it for their dogs off leash. We agreed at one point to try to increase the signage and just kind of awareness of what the existing policy for dogs on conservation lands were, to see if that would have any kind of marked any kind of marked change in people's behaviors, especially with their dogs. And I'm looking at your packet, it looks like we really haven't. So then tonight was kind of a chance to discuss what exactly to do next. And I was going to say I could turn it over to Rebecca for your comments here. But I think Rebecca had kind of presented us with certain possibilities to look at within the packet. I'm not sure if people have specific questions for Rebecca before we kind of more open it up to the public. Or Rebecca, if you want to take a minute and do like a quick summary of kind of what we found and what you are proposing.
Sure. So first and foremost, I do want to thank, because I think the majority of people here are here for this item. So thank you for attending the meeting. And also we received quite a bit of feedback via email and phone calls, and that is really important in something like this. And obviously in a community, we want to hear from the public. In those pieces of correspondence, which again, there were many, there was a lot of redundancies, which is both helpful and supportive of the commission making an educated and informed decision and hearing from community members, as I've previously stated. The thing that I found interesting, and I compiled all of the emails and the correspondence we received, whether in favor or in opposition to the leash requirement. And in that, there were a lot of, like I said, redundancies. So I tried to pull out those, but then also pull out, a lot of people also suggested potential solutions or midline projects to be able to move forward in a way that doesn't require a leash requirement. But there were a lot of misconceptions that were clearly documented through a lot of the emails that were in opposition to the leash requirement. So obviously, as I've already stated, thank you for your insight. And I've read through all of it. The commission has seen every one of those emails. It was provided in their meeting packet. So all of that being said, I do want to just run through sort of the top 5 misconceptions, and it's not to provide correction. It's just to bring everyone in on the same page in terms of what the commission is tasked with doing, so that we can all understand and have an informed discussion here. So number 1 was just an awareness that all properties managed and maintained through the deeded responsible party, being the town of Bolton acting through its conservation commission, is conservation land. It's managed and maintained pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C. And as stated in the rules and regs, these lands are protected for specific uses in our regulations that exist now that tie back to Mass General Laws I've quoted already. The Conservation Commission adopted the rules to provide a pleasant experience for users and in order to preserve and protect in perpetuity the wildlife, aesthetic, ecological, environmental, and conservation values of these properties, which include protection of surface and groundwater resources, protection of unfragmented forest habitat, protection of wildlife habitat, and protection of open space in the town's trail system. Again, just bringing everyone on the same page of what the commission is tasked with. Number two, well, let me go back to number one first. When a use on a particular conservation property is not supportive or could be negatively impacting the purpose and values as aforementioned, or the purpose of which that property was acquired, which is reflective of what I just read. The commission is then tasked with taking the item up for discussion as they've done, reviewing and working towards improvement of that to ensure that the use of the property is supportive of why it was acquired. And again, meeting those conservation values and why that property was protected, as I just stated. Number two, there is no leash law in Bolton. And I'm stressing that because a lot of the feedback we got included misstated information related to that. There's no leash requirement on any of our conservation properties beyond the rules and regs that are currently in place related to dogs on conservation land. And those have been in place since 2018. So again, just providing clarification on that because there was some confusion or asking, you know, where else can I walk my dog in town? There are other areas. Additionally, the commission never mentioned, nor are they considering an outright ban of dogs on conservation lands in the town of Bolton. That has never been part of the discussion, and I just want to make that clear because, again, a lot of feedback had references to that or fear of that, and that's not the case at this time. Number four, any and all dog waste on any portion of the property, not just including trails, is a pollutant and harmful to the conservation values and poses significant ecological issues and impacts. There are supportive studies through the EPA, and that's why a lot of communities besides Bolton have actually banned or required leashes for dogs to reduce that impact on their waterways. So no, that is not a study we've done localized to that property, but it's known information through studies done by other communities and at the federal level. This is also not a new conversation in general. This was initiated in 2016 by the Conservation Commission during public hearings and public meetings, and the new regulations were put in place in 2018. Prior conversations regarding this matter were had, as well as pertaining to issues from the use conflicting with values of the property and purpose, outside of even just dogs on conservation land. One other thing to note that we became made aware of is one of the small grants that we applied to help maintain the property. Again, to offset the funds, so we have another large grant that we're waiting on feedback from. But the small grant that was going to help us offset the match that would contribute if that larger grant would fund the project, maintaining the earthen dams at Bowers, explicitly expressed concerns about dog issues and concern for the ability to the project to be successful because of dog issues on the property. So that was a little surprising to me, but again, being aware of the various activities on the property, and again, not maliciously so, but acknowledging that there are conservation values at risk there. That was upsetting, but that's certainly part of what is going on as well. So that again was some of the misconceptions documented and that I wanted to clarify. And again, that's not for correcting anyone. It's to get everyone on the same page of what the Conservation Commission is tasked with when they're managing and maintaining these properties, and to sort of just set the baseline for continued conversation. Brian, do you want me to go over anything else for right now? Do you want me to talk about the option that I had talked to you about?
I was gonna say, yeah, that
Okay.
that would be the one. Yeah, kind of what the options that we're kind of looking at tonight.
Okay. So the commission, as you're aware, has been discussing a leash requirement at Bowers. Again, we've heard you, we've heard the community, both in opposition and support of that. One of the things that I had come up with after hearing from some people in opposition and seeing some of the suggestions in really what's feasible with our current resources from the town is if the commission were not requiring a leash, and if they were not voting in support of a leash requirement on the property, I would strongly suggest to the commission to update existing rules and regulations for all properties under Concom purview with rules and regs for dogs on conservation land, similar to DCR, and I'll explain this in a minute. And my suggestion is update the regulations, and what the update is basically simplifying and clarifying, combining the dog regulations that we currently have, simplifying them, putting into one document. And in addition to that, setting that in place for a year. And during that year period, the commission will review and assess if that use, the current use on the property, continues to negatively impact the conservation values on the property. And again, this is what they're tasked to do. So it's extending it a year before any other considerations are made. And then in 2027, either in February or March, whatever the commission determines is a reasonable time frame of a year, if it continues to negatively impact, they would then implement a leash requirement. If not, and that would only be specific to Bowers or any other impacted property if it becomes to another property, but right now we're focusing on Bowers. If not, and it's improved or remains the same regarding not seriously altering conservation values on the property in a negative manner, we would keep the current rules and regs in place. Again, the language, which I'll go through in a minute, for the DCR specific based language that we'd be updating our regs to, helps to simplify and clarify, which is something that we heard from a lot of different parties, while also defining the meaning of responsible and effective control, while also addressing the issue of non-dog owners wanting to utilize the property and hopefully reducing some of those conflicts that we've heard from. I'm reading from notes here, so I appreciate your patience. So some of the ways we would measure the negative impacts or alterations, or whether they stay the same, is we would be looking at exactly back to the rules and regs that I read before. So impacts to wildlife, we'd be looking at habitat impacts, lodges, because everyone knows there's a lot of beaver activity there, dams, dens, food resources, and chase or harassment. The second item would be feces left on the property on trail or off trail within the property. Again, I briefly mentioned that, but that was a big misconception, is that feces anywhere on the property, not just on the trail, is a problem. And we'll look into water testing for nutrient loads and bacteria, so we actually have quantifiable data. And then reported incidents and conflicts on the property that can be reported by town officials, residents, or other community members. Again, that data would be reported and reviewed via public meeting, just like this one, at a Concom meeting approximately a year from now. And then the commission would review and take a vote in a reasonable time frame if there were any changes to be made. So the draft update to regs, again, if the commission's not proposing the leash requirement, would be quite literally taking some of the language from DCR. So the language would be, I don't know if you're familiar with DCR, parks rules and regs, but
Could
making
be,
sure your dog is wearing a collar with current tags for license and rabies vaccine. Bring no more than 2 dogs per person at one time. DCR has 4 dogs. Keeping it 2 dogs is keeping it concurrent with the current regulations. So today those are in place. Always clean up after your dogs and carry out waste or dispose of it in an appropriate receptacle. Do not leave it on the ground. Dogs must be on leash in all parking areas. Make sure that dogs do not damage conservation land. I will get back to 2 items in a moment. I'm just going to read through the items that are specific to DCR. Unless invited, do not allow your dog, even if friendly, to approach other dogs or people who may not desire such contact. Keep dogs under effective control at all times and make sure they do not engage in aggressive behavior. In designated on-leash areas, dogs must be tethered on a leash of no more than 10 feet in length. Again, this is specific to parking areas. In off-leash areas, dogs must be under control either through voice control or electronic training collar or in a manner directed by a law enforcement officer or other town employee personnel. This means your dog is within sight at all times, comes immediately when called, stays at your command, does not charge or chase people, dogs, horses, or wildlife, is leashed when entering or exiting an off-leash area. The owner should have at least 1 leash in hand for each dog. Visitors who do not abide by these rules may be subject to eviction from the park and or receive a fine. These are the other clarification I want to make. These are draft regulations. The commission has not, this was a suggestion that I am providing the commission as an option. And they have the ability to edit things, like for instance, the word park will likely change to conservation land versus keeping it as park. The items I'm going to go back to are, I also included, which exists today from our existing regulations, keep dogs out of vernal pools during amphibian breeding season, generally mid-February through April. And this is in the same document as the conservation land rules and regs. So those would stay the same. It would just be incorporating what I just read into, the existing document. The new component that I would propose to assist in some of the feedback we received who were in support of a leash requirement, I want to make sure that I relayed that properly, are 2 items. The first is dogs must be on leash when crossing conservation restriction lands or trail easements outside of publicly owned conservation lands. So this would apply for those who are questioning that. Not specific to Bowers Spring, the large 48-acre parcel itself, but rather coming on and off of adjacent parcels. For instance, leading to Bear Hill Road, there are some properties that cross conservation restrictions for a short stint of time. They are shown in different colors on our existing trail maps. So in terms of whether you're concerned on how do I know when I'm in this area, it is pretty clear on those maps. And obviously public outreach is something we can work with too. The second item is persons or dogs shall not enter onto or trespass onto adjacent private property. The Bolton Conservation Commission does not give permission by entry from the public conservation lands for any persons or dogs to enter into private property at any time. And then alternative language related to that is also proposed, basically just stating that because you're entering through Bowers Springs or a public conservation property, it does not give you the right or your dog the right to enter onto a private property adjacent that may or may not be fenced. And just clarifying that point because there was some miscommunication about that too. So Mr. Chair, that's what I have in terms of the other option, which I believe to be quite fair and reasonable, based on, again, the evidence that I've collected from the emails that are, or the information collected through email correspondence, both in opposition and support, along with the plethora, which is an understatement, of information that I would say is in support of a leash requirement that other communities and other conservation professionals have done to show the pollutant and impact load and negative impact to conservation properties. But that's something that we don't have specific to this property or Bolton conservation lands in a quantitative amount. So that's something I wanted to allow another opportunity while we address that item if the commission so wishes. But that is what I have for today, Brian.
Thank you. All right, let me open up to commission members first. Commission members have any initial thoughts, comments, questions, anything they'd like to ask Rebecca, or in general?
Brian, I have a comment when you
Go ahead, Scott.
pick. No, I thought Rebecca's suggestions were well thought out and supportive of current policies. So I do like that approach. I would just on as far as the timing of it, I would encourage the timing to be, we would look to say running it to a month like August. So you would have 2 full summers worth of activity, high activity times for the analysis. So rather than having it end in February when people are still huddled in homes, I would say push it out for 2 summers. So like a year and a half more so than a year.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And I was going to say, if we said through the end of fiscal year 2027, or are we going to 2027 now or 2028? I can never remember this, Rebecca.
We're going
Is that-
into 2020. We're going into fiscal year 27, starting July 1.
Yeah, and that will end June 30th of next year, right?
That is correct.
So that hopefully that would give us the, yeah. Or I was gonna say does that even give us a full year? It doesn't really.
So you want to go to FY 28?
Right. So yeah, if we say through the end of fiscal year 2027 is through what, June 30th next year only, right?
Yeah.
So then that would give us a full year and a half, well, full year plus worth of data.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And kept it give us the growing seasons too.
I think so. Yeah, that'll give us like a summer and a half. Just to Scott's point about getting a time's worth where people are more apt to be outside in a higher number.
Yeah.
So what you could just say is August 2027.
I would
Instead of the
support
fiscal year.
August just so that you get
Okay.
the full effect of the summer.
I
Yeah.
think that's fair.
So August of 2027. If we still go that route, but that would be, all right. Other comments, questions, thoughts from commission members?
Hi, Brian. Yeah, so just a couple things here. So I wanted to try and get some data, right? We talk about data, but we need to get data so we can kind of make decisions. So I attempted to get some data, right? And this is just me. So what I did is I just wanted to observe people with dogs and people without dogs, look at the number of people with dogs on leashes and really how people interact with people walking their dogs interact with people that don't have dogs. So I tried to look at that. So I went to Bauer from the last meeting to now. I went 11 times, about an hour. I spent about an hour there each time. I saw 92 dogs. And, if I assume a ratio of the dog per person, some people have 2 dogs, some people, multiple 1 dog. So I saw 92 dogs and I saw 5 people without dogs, right? So 95% of the people that I saw there had dogs. I saw there were 7 dogs on leashes in Bowers. And my suspicion is they were either runners or people were trying to keep their dogs out of the homes. Most of the dogs, when I was walking around, ran up to me. They, whatever you want to call it, charged or whatever you want to call it. Most of the dogs ran up to me. That's what dogs do. I only had 1 person call their dog back. As far as misbehaved dogs, dog owners, 3 dogs jumped on me. One was on a leash. There was one dog that was aggressive. He was an aggressive dog, and the guy was on his phone. And finally called the dog over. There were 3 other dogs that were, it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I will say I love dogs, and I've been to a lot of dog parks, so I get it. Very few dogs were on the leash in the parking lot. Very few people leashed their dogs in the parking lot. I had one Great Pyrenees big dog woofed at me, so I was a little bit uncomfortable, but like I said, I love dogs. There were 2 professional dog walkers. Dogs mainly stayed on the path. So kind of my conclusions are, 95% of the people had dogs there. Yeah, it's a de facto dog park. Only one person called their dog back when it ran up to me. And that's what people do in dog parks. So I get that. People are behaving like it's a dog park. There's a dog ball kiosk. That screams dog park. And then the dog with the Great Pyrenees that woofed at me, I said to the owner, "Is your dog friendly?" And he said, and I quote, "He's suspicious of people without dogs." So in other words, what are you doing in a dog park without a dog? So with all that said, it's a de facto dog park. So, I'm open to non-leash, to without a leash requirement, but people need to, have their dog under control. If you're a non-dog person and you're walking in Bower Springs, you're not going to be happy, and you're probably not going to go there because everyone's got a dog, and the dogs run up to people because it's a de facto dog park. So if we can change the behavior and say, this is not a dog park, it's a conservation area. Please keep your dog under control and really mean it and find a way to really, if we can police that, if you will, then, I don't want a dog a leash requirement. But with that said, people that are not dog people aren't going to go there and can enjoy the conservation area. That's all. So, but I'm open for either way. But
Brian, you're muted.
We need to find a way to have people control their dogs.
No, I appreciate you going out there. I like the firsthand accounts. I kick myself. I keep saying, "Oh, I got to go out there. I got to go out there," and I never find the time. So I really appreciate that. Other thoughts, comments, initial questions from Conservation Commission members?
Brian?
Go ahead, Sue.
So, I've read through all of the emails and there were a lot of them. And the thing that I kind of got out of all of them in a nutshell, what I feel is like, yes, dogs need a place to go and run around and stuff, and I get that. But dogs don't have rights, right? Like, they don't have the right to go and run around freely. But property owners do have rights, and we're hearing from property owners who are getting off-leash dogs into their properties. And I think that's a problem that we really do need to address. I'm all for, I think we should try something. I honestly think we should have a leash requirement, but we should also, maybe we should try that for a year or a year and a half and see how it goes. See if complaints go down, see if there's a change in behavior. So that's my 2 cents right now.
Thank you. All right. Other questions, comments from commission members? Not seeing it at this time. All right. Members of the public tonight that want to comment on this particular hearing, if you could raise your hand, please, or just do the hand up. And Lauren, if I was going to say, if you
Yes.
could just kind of go first come, first serve, or whatever order.
Sure. I see George Lewinick has his hand raised.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the effort that Rebecca put into this, and a lot of her suggestions are very good ones. I'm not sure that my letter ever got to you because it got kicked back to me because the address that I had for Brian Berube turned out not to be correct. But I'd like to just make some comments about the dog waste. That is something that a lot of us who are there are concerned about. And we certainly could be doing a better job of it. But I will tell you that one of the fellows who's there regularly, Brian Talbot, went out with a 5-gallon pail. During the winter, people were just not picking up the waste the same way they do during the summer. And there were people that thought kicking some snow over the waste was covering it up. And of course, in the spring, the place was terrible. And Brian went out one day with a 5-gallon pail and a shovel and cleared off the main trails. There's a fellow named Stuart McDougall and his wife Nora, who's now very sick, but they started putting up 5 rolls at a time of dog do bags, and they replaced those almost daily. There's another woman named Cindy Ayat who would go out with a large plastic bag and pick up incredible amounts of dog do every day. There are a lot of us that are concerned about it, and we're doing what we can. One of the things that I've seen in other places is the sign "Pick up after your dog and one other." And there are times when I get involved in a conversation and I don't see what my dog is doing, but if I pick up after 2 dogs on every time, there wouldn't be a dog waste problem. And about the aggressive dogs, we're also, as the users there, we're aware of this and we try to do some policing of it.
Yes.
There was a time a few years ago when a woman with a very nice, well-behaved German Shepherd was out of control. She couldn't control her dogs. And we talked to her often enough that she stopped coming there with her dog. There are other times when we talked to somebody who needed an electric collar for a dog that was basically a good dog but wasn't responding, and we talk about different models and where you can get them, and we're doing our part to try to make this a place where we can continue to enjoy it. As was pointed out, 93 out of 98 or whatever it is, people who go there right now are dog owners. I understand the thrust of the Conservation Commission, but this is also something that is very heavily used. And there are times when Brian McLean is here as one of the guests. He is an excellent naturalist. He'll talk to us about invasive species. He knows the birds that we're listening to, and there is an exposure to nature for the 93 out of 98 people who go there with their dogs, and they're getting this exposure. So I appreciate any effort you can do to keep this open to those of us who are using it largely as a dog park, but also as a way to get out into nature. So thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. The next person that would like to speak.
Yep. Next, we have Caitlin Bradford.
Okay.
Hi, thank you very much. I've appreciated the last several months, your willingness to hear a variety of, and it was really helpful.
Oh.
Caitlin, you're breaking out.
Okay, sorry. Or can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to speak to just amplify something Rebecca said, which is, I think with a public information campaign, that the dog owners, as George said, are so committed to this property and really love it and want to take care of it. And we saw that from the number of people who were committed to clearing out the poop this spring. And so I think if people really understood what the concerns were, so you talked about, assessing data over the coming year. I think if you really informed people of what is the data that you're looking at, what is the impact the dogs are having, I think if that was well understood, people would do their very best to minimize the impact of their animals. Because I think it's more than just having a place to let your dog run around. It really is, there's a community of people who see each other regularly, who stop and chat in a way that I don't have that anywhere else in my life right now, that because the dogs are off leash and playing, there's human contact and interaction and relationships formed that don't happen in very many places. And I think respect for the environment and really love of being outdoors, love of Bolton. So I think if you sort of played off that commitment, I've seen just in the last few weeks as people became very concerned about the change in policies, the amount of activism, the amount to which people were talking to each other and sort of policing each other and making people better informed. So again, just wanting to echo the importance of a public awareness campaign. I think if people know what they need to do, they will work hard to do it. There may just be a lack of understanding of the environmental impact. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Caitlin. Next, Lauren.
Yep. Next, we have Maruca Rivera Lopez.
Ms. Lopez, I was gonna say if whenever you are ready. Excuse me.
I just had a question for because I overheard the meeting by the conservation agent where she was talking about the measurements of the negative impact. I understand the water portion of it. I wanted to understand, I guess, what are you looking at as far as measurement wise for the negative impact, and then also inversely, how are you measured the positive impacts? Because like the previous speaker just said, there are positive associations there, right? There are positive things, people do interact, people do socialize, and this will be the only way that they not the only way, but this will be a very important way that they do socialize. So there's positive and negative impacts, and I just want to make sure that you guys are measuring both, because if you're only looking at the negative impacts, and your report at the end of these almost 2 years is going to be overwhelmingly negative. And then how, just to make sure that when you guys are doing these reports, that you do take into consideration how does just the human influence interfere or just impact these things. Because if you're looking at like specific water, like just water runoff from the community will find its way into the water, and then how will you differentiate it being from the community versus it being specifically from that dog park? I love data, so I love to know like the exact specifics of how these things, come to fruition, how you get the exact ones.
Sure. Mr. Chair, I can certainly address
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna say, Rebecca, if you want to address, thank you.
So again, just point of clarification, conservation property, not a dog park. And I think a lot of people are just misspeaking with that. But so in terms of when I'm saying measuring the negative impact, I guess I need to correct myself in saying just measuring impact, right? So I'm looking at it from, is it supporting conservation values or not? And those components that I was looking at, like I said, from the water testing, we'll speak to the labs and see exactly what the parameters are for what a negative versus a positive would be. When we're looking at the bacteria nutrient loads, it's probably all going to be negative, but what we're looking at is there an increase over time continuously, or is it relatively stagnant? And again, obviously there's a standard for error with that. So we take into consideration environmental impacts, time of year. But in terms of the reporting incidents, it's like a 1-for-1 report. And again, we're looking at those conservation related values and the social construct or the community of it. I think the way to measure that in a positive, or to answer that component of your question, is what I would be looking at is how can that resource, as Caitlin just expressed, be utilized to support maintenance of bowers in the way to basically improve the conservation values. So therefore, is there a trade-off where we are able to garner this effort from this community of user groups that could be negatively impacting when it comes to nutrient loads and bacteria, but we may find that there are also benefits from it because of either there's volunteers for the invasive species management or there's support in that manner. And then in terms of impacts to wildlife, that could also be a 1-for-1. Like, for instance, if a dog's digging a hole in a beaver lodge, that's pretty clear that it's negative. If a dog's leaving it alone, that's pretty obvious. If we don't have significant damage to the wildlife habitat and resources, which, like I said one example. That's really a clear 1-for-1 quantitative piece of data. Regarding like the numbers and getting more into like technical chemical compound breakdown and then ecological impacts from that, that's more specific to the water test. So that's really the only test that's specific to numbers, and we'd work with the labs to make sure that we understand what a general, and I'm saying stagnant, but that's not, I'm trying to speak in general terms, sort of a level, not really increases, decreases. Again, also understanding expectation time of year, because with snow melt, to your point, from the environment, you may have an increased nutrient load from the snow melt. Without going down that tangent this evening, and it sounds like you're an informed individual when it comes from environmental implications. That is something that we take into consideration. But those are the parameters we're looking at. Again, tying it back to the conservation values of the property, not necessarily social construct, but I could see, as I gave the example, we could measure that as well and see the resource that could be provided through the community that's been built there through those user groups.
And when you guys
Just as
create-
an example, I mean, the commission hasn't voted on this at all yet, but just
Yeah, understandable. When you guys come up with your framework for how are you going to measure these impacts, will you share will you share what your framework is? Because there may be impacts that you're not that you don't account for that may come up over the course of 18 months, or that people may, I'm so sorry, I can't remember who came up, who said that, like the socialization aspect for people, like that those may come up that might not be captured in your initial framework.
And that's completely understood. And I would believe that that's part of the reporting at the end. So we would note that these are community groups that have been supported, et cetera. But when it comes to conservation values identified in the rules and regs, identified in what the commission's tasked with, the anthropogenic impacts aren't technically part of that consideration, but the open space and having public access to the property is certainly in support of the use of that property, as long as it's respecting those conservation values. And therefore, I do agree. I think it's important, but that's not specifically one of the parameters that would qualify as an improvement for the conservation values or not, but certainly supports that this property is important for these reasons, if that makes sense to you.
It does.
Sorry, thank you. Lauren, the next person with a comment?
Yes, next up is Paul and Carolyn Mitchell.
Please, the close it whenever you're ready. If we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
Thanks.
So I'm a long-term dog walker, mostly at Vaughan Hill. I have 2 little dogs, always on a leash. I stopped going to Bower Springs years ago because it's just constantly overrun with out-of-control dogs. And in my experience, if you don't have a leash law that says you have to have your dog on a leash, people will have out-of-control dogs. There's just no way. They'll say, I have control of my dog, when in reality, they have very little control of their dog, to the point where I've almost gotten in fights with people about their dog being out of control and coming after me and my dogs. So I'm really heavily in favor of just simply saying an explicit leash law, because I think we have an implicit leash law right now. it says you have to have effective control. And 99% of dogs, the only way to have effective control is to have them on a leash, because people just don't have recall. They don't have control of most dogs. So heavily in favor of leash laws being put in place where you explicitly say dogs have to be on leash. Yeah, that's about it.
Right.
And I would just add to that, that if we're going to try an experiment, I would be curious about whether or not we've considered try the experiment for a year of a leash law and see what happens. My feeling is that those who are willing to continue to benefit, as the prior one of our speakers said, from the beauty of the conservation land, and those who really do want to be there with their dogs will put their dog on a leash. And the people who are the issue will find someplace else to let their dog run free.
Or they'll just not listen.
Or
to
they
it.
won't listen, and they'll be the ones reported. But I'd like to see the experiment of trying something like a leash law. I haven't done any research on other towns that have explicit leash laws, but my feeling is that it's not that tough. Like dogs don't have the rights. The homeowners and
Right.
landowners and the people in this community, and we can all be adults. Most of us can be adults and just be respectful. But my experience when I was there once without Paul and I had the dogs, I screamed 3 times and had to threaten to pepper spray this person's dog, which I really don't want to do, until the guy came over and then he gave me some colorful language about myself. So,
And he had to physically grab his
he
dog.
physically had to grab his dog from coming this close to attacking my dog and myself. I was very frightened. I picked up my dogs. They're small. I can do that, but that wouldn't have protected me. I'm just saying that's one experience. I stopped going there also years ago.
No, thank you both for your comments. One thing I should clarify, because this is a great one, Rebecca, when she brought up some of those initial talking points. Just to be clear, it's not a leash law. Bolton doesn't have a leash law. We don't have the authority to institute a leash law. This would be regulations for conservation land that we manage.
Sure. So let me just
leash requirement, but I know that term gets thrown around a lot. It
But
can be very
I
heated.
guess- I guess- for the town bylaws, my understanding is when they wanted to make a leash law throughout Bolton, there was so much pushback that they made this wishy-washy bylaw, which says you have to have complete control. But isn't that an implicit leash law? If you can't have implicit control without a leash?
Brian, I can slightly address
please.
that.
Yeah. please.
So I understand your perspective, Paul, regarding the implicit leash law approach or seeing it that way. I don't necessarily disagree. I could see how it could be interpreted that way. I can't confirm or not that that was a result of putting in a leash requirement previously. I can only speak to during my time here, which in 2016, when this was brought up solely through the Bolton Conservation Commission, not through the town at town meeting, which would alter a different associated bylaw. This is specific to conservation land only and tied to the related bylaw that the Conservation Commission oversees and has jurisdiction over. But I can't speak to what was originally done with the general Bolton bylaw, but I see where you're coming from and I understand that. And I think you are correct interpretively wise to say this has been in place discussed since 2016. It's been in place since 2018, which I previously stated in my beginning summary. This is not a new conversation. And so that's why I had proposed an option for the commission, which they have yet to weigh in on at this time. Well, some members have, but they haven't taken a vote or anything, just as another option. And that's, again, after the feedback we received this time around during the discussion and offering that as well as a discussion point. But I understand where you're coming from, Paul.
A quick follow-up question. Is it possible that if this works for Bowers, that it might apply to all conservation land?
So that would be under the discretion of the commission, obviously. What I will say is the current focus is at Bowers because that's where the issue is or where the concentrated activity is.
Sure.
If that activity were to become a problem on other conservation properties, then I would say yes, the commission certainly would be reviewing those properties as well. But
And
at
how
this
would that
time, that's not the case.
determination be made? Like, I walk my dogs literally hundreds, maybe 1,000 times at Vaughan.
Sure.
And I would say 50, 60% of the time we get not attacked by out of control dogs, but we run into them. So it's very, very frequent. If there was a specific place where I could report that, I would be happy to do that because it happens all the time. I mean, I don't really go to Vaughan anymore because I almost got in a fight with somebody in there about pepper spraying their dog, which I didn't wind up doing, but I came close to it and they didn't like that. So, yeah, it's a big deal for me because I love going to Vaughan, and I don't like to have to go there looking around to see if there's any big dogs that are gonna run towards me and come after my dogs.
I would, so in general to anyone on this, where there are clear violations of the Bolton Conservation Rules and Regulations, wetlands are not specific because as you've become even more aware this evening, there are conservation rules and regs and currently dogs on conservation land rules and regs, both which apply and are enforceable by the Bolton Conservation Commission and associated staff. And where it rises to other jurisdictions and departments within the town. So my suggestion would be when you have an issue, particularly if it's a reoccurring individual at a specific time or day, again, reoccurring is something that we can definitely look into. We definitely welcome reports of any issues that are on a property on a one-time occurrence too, but those obviously are a little bit more difficult to follow up on. What I will say too is I do appreciate the support of the community trying to address individuals who are not in compliance with rules and regs, because that assists the commission in ensuring the conservation values are being supported on site and the conservation rules and regulations. So Paul, not just to your question, but also I know George had addressed an aggressive dog that was discovered on the property that they addressed, and we do appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Next person with question or comment?
Next is Peter Hoffman.
All right, Mr. Hoffman, when you are ready, please.
Thanks very much for allowing me to speak. Really appreciate it. I'm a frequent Bower user. I'm reading from notes, so if I'm looking down, that's why. And I find Bowers to be a treasure as it is. If leashes were required, it would still be a treasure, but not quite so much. I took to heart what Jim Garrity said because he has some, very valuable data, and hopefully the commission will think hard about the data that he brought to the meeting. The majority of users at Bowers really enjoy it. There's exceptions, but the majority of the users at Bowers really, really enjoy what we've got. It's a treasure. Having no leash requirement is a privilege in many ways, and I recognize that, and I hope most of us recognize that. It's my hope that the commission will continue this privilege. It would be a terrible loss to lose that privilege and be required to use leashes. That's the only way our dogs get to run. Anyway, thank you very much, and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Lauren, who do we have next?
Next is Helen Stubbs.
All right, Ms. Stubbs, when you are ready, please.
Yeah, hi, folks. Thanks again for having this open discussion. I am also a very frequent user of Bowersbrook. Really only, although I've used it in the past, since I've been a dog owner of February of last year, I've gone there virtually every single day that I'm in Harvard, which is, the vast majority of the time. I am a very strong supporter of the current off-leash enjoyment of the space. I own an Australian Shepherd puppy who would definitely not be able to release his full energy if he were on a leash. And he, again, I know it's not about the enjoyment of the dogs, but I think there's an important socialization that occurs among the dogs as well, where they do learn to grow to accept and be around other dogs conflict free. So I do understand that there's, been a number of incidents brought forward. I want to say this, I'm a public health person and I would want to understand, and I understand, and I love the idea of, giving it a year to gather more data and understand the severity of the concerns and the issues. And of course, there will be, a number of incidents and events that may come forward before the commission. Also, there's, the water testing that is going on, which is all for the good. I think it's really important to understand what is the denominator here, right? In terms of events and negative events and incidents, what is I mean, there are a great many people and dogs who use this property to good effect and to positive use to sort of reinforce the points that were made by Maruka and Caitlin. I think it's really very important to understand, again, the denominator so that we can understand the rate at which these negative incidents are occurring, right? So are negative incidents occurring 10% of the time, 5% of the time, 1% of the time, or even less than that? I would say for my own experience, roughly speaking to, if I started going there on a daily or mostly, all but a handful of days since last February, 400 days, roughly speaking, I have encountered one dog that has been aggressive to my own. That calculates to 0.25% of the time. And so that really, in my mind, equates to the vast, vast majority of people who are using that space, using it in a responsible manner. And again, I'm not here to suggest that the negative incidents don't occur at all, but I think a very important part of the data gathering effort go towards understanding what the true denominator is here so that we can say, and understand that the true population of people and how is it being enjoyed and the level at which people are being responsible with their dogs and the use of the property. So yeah, I also just want to reinforce the importance of this as a third space for people to use and see one another socially. And I do hear the conservation agent saying this is not here for enjoyment of humans, but I did also hear it seems to be in conflict with another statement that I heard her state, which is that part of either the values or the purpose of the commission is to ensure that the conservation land is a pleasant experience for users. And so again, I would just reinforce that use of and the ability of this place to serve as a non-commercial third space for people to engage and encounter with one another. And it lends to social cohesion and social capital, which is in short supply these days. And I just want to lend support to that part of the argument as well. And thanks again for allowing me to comment.
Thank you for your comments. And I was just saying, somebody who owned an Aussie for years, yeah, thank you for knowing how much energy they need to blow off in a day. Lauren, who is our next person that wanted to comment or question?
Next is Jay Pilkington.
Howdy, everybody. I live or am one of the abutters to Bower Springs. I'm right up one of the trails as you get to Bear Hill Road. I may have a little interesting additional perspective that I work from home. I get to kind of hear what's going on. Acoustics around this part of the country or Bolton are pretty good. I certainly hear boatloads, and I'm a dog owner and a dog lover and a people lover. So I do hear a fair number of scraps of dogs. I don't know if they're leashed or not leashed. And having kids that we used to go down there, go fishing, they did Tom Denny. I don't know. There certainly seems to be a healthy amount. I have no idea what the percentage is, but you hear a couple of dogs really going at it, and I would think that would be upsetting for the families that are down there. But just a little perspective for you. And I think the other one I have as an abutter, I know I'm somewhat unique. But a lot of people that will walk up with their dog, or if their dog takes off without a leash, they'll bomb around and they'll come into our property. And I've made friends with a number of dogs. But there've been a couple that my daughter has chickens, and it's really gotten out of hand a couple of times, but it really was a very limited, isolated case. But I guess at the end of the day, and I don't want to get into a fight with anybody. Our dogs have always run around on our property. I guess I kind of challenge the notion that a dog needs to be able to go down to Bowers to run around. I respect and appreciate it, but I kind of think it's for people. And if you want to bring your dog to burn off energy, I do kind of think it should be under your control continuously. And I think that is a leash. But I think that's the bulk of what I had to say. And if anybody had questions, I will appreciate them. That's all I got.
Thank you for that. Lauren, the next person that wanted to give comment or question?
Yep. Next is Dennis Kim. Kim Dennis.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the time to be able to comment. And I'd first like to thank the commission for all that you do in protecting, the conservation land and, bringing forward some of these very, very important topics. So thank you very much again for all that you do. I am also a frequent Bowers Springs, part of that population, and I thoroughly enjoy the great outdoors. I enjoy seeing the dogs sort of living their best life. I want to say hello to George. George, it's been a while since I've seen you, so it's good to see you. And I think, hearing the data from Jim was also very eye-opening. And also being a data guy, it was really nice to sort of hear some of the numbers and the frequency and sort of his perspective. And what I would say is a very objective lens on what he observed over multiple trips to Bowers. I think Caitlin, who was one of the first people to speak, really had something very powerful to say. And I think also Rebecca, overall, I think a lot of the things that you brought to the table about the mission and the objectives of what is trying to be achieved is also very, very relevant and very important for all of us to consider. And when I listen to Caitlin, I think she has a very, very good point. And it's surprising how many people may not understand the deterioration and the pollutants that dog waste that are left behind has on the property and has on the conservation land. So I believe that even with minimal education and awareness, because when you walk through Bowers, you don't see trash. You don't see people's soda cans. You don't see people's plastic, lunch bags and whatever. People take care of the conservation land. They care for the conservation land. So I wonder how many people really understand how devastating dog waste has, on nature and on the property. So just maybe with some minimal education, we would see a drastic improvement. And I know that many of us that frequent Bowers Springs, and I recognize so many faces and so many people here, we do try to self-police. And oftentimes, like George was saying, sometimes you're engaged in a conversation, and then somebody that I know will be like, "Hey, Dennis, over there, you gotta, and you go pick it up." So, Rebecca, I love what you said. I really feel strongly about the mission and what we have to do to be able to protect the conservation land, around Bolton. And I think Caitlin's point about education and, the devastation that the dog waste has, is something that we really need to raise awareness on. And I'm pretty confident, just because people that are there care, for the ponds, care for the trails, care for the nature. that just simply educating people on how devastating dog waste is will go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person that had a comment or question,
Next would be Rich Fisher.
Mr. Fisher.
Can you, oh, hi, there I am. So, yeah, I also I'm in a butter, and I have a small dog. I like to walk him on leash back there. And, you know, and by the way, I appreciate the whole, the social thing people have going on, but, you know, that's why I'm thinking the experiment should be maybe leashes everywhere, and then they can have like an off-leash area where their dogs can run around and they can socialize. But for all the people that want to go out and enjoy the peace of nature and then just go for a nice walk with their dog, that I'm afraid to go back there. I'm charged so many times. And you know, they're not all unfriendly, but you know what? Once you have, it really what it comes down to is it's a numbers game there. There's so many dogs that, you know, if every week I bump into, say, 150 dogs, and that's probably not unreal. It just takes a few episodes to basically scare you. And then every time you're seeing dogs approach, and almost when you're out in the trails, you see the dogs approach long before you see the people. You're basically doing like a threat assessment each time, and you couldn't be less peaceful. And as an abutter, I have dogs in my yard every day. I've had to clean up the poop. I've had, you know, my wife got bit back there. My daughters got pushed over back there. So, you know, I don't go out there anymore. So there's probably a reason that it's weighted very heavily towards people without with dogs not on leash, because other people are like, I just, you know, I don't want to deal with it. I'm afraid. And it's, you know, like that whole, I mean, apparently and I don't understand how a rule that says, oh, you actually have to have your dog in control, you know, and you're gonna like put signs up. Do people what they have to be told? They know that they should clean up their poop. A sign ain't gonna help. They know that the dogs shouldn't be charging other people. And if you have a little dog and I pick it up and I'm getting like literally surrounded and like it's, you know, I'm like I don't go there. And so for people that say it's going to take away from something from them, well, that activity takes something away from the people that are afraid to go out there anyway. It's just too much stress and hassle. And so, you know, why not have like that, make a section and call it a dog park? But when you're out on the trails, I mean, if a person had them, you know, within sort of actual control, they probably could have a leash on it and it wouldn't matter. And as far as like, there's plenty of places that are, you know, we don't live in tiny little apartments in Harvard and Bolton and so forth. Dogs can get their exercise, you know, and so I guess, you know, like a person can still go for a walk on the trail with the dog on a leash. That's not being taken away from them. But what's being taken away from the people that don't want to be rushed by dogs is the ability to go do the same. You know, and again, just the every day there's dogs in my yard. And then my dog will start barking. My wife will be working at home. And it's like a serious disruption in our world. Like that, frankly, should just, there's no world where that should be acceptable. And I appreciate that there's a small community of people that enjoy each other's company. And that's awesome. You know, my thinking is that they're probably all hovered around the sort of the nature camp general area. But once they're out on the trails, I'm not seeing the social thing going on. It's the dogs off and there you go. So maybe that's the experiment to do over the next year is, and by the way, as far as the data goes, how many times I get charged by dogs or how many people make decisions not to go out there, that data is not going to appear. What am I going to do? And what am I supposed to do? Ask people for their identification when their dogs charge me? And I also, like that other gentleman who was talking, have almost had physical altercations out there because I'm in a panic holding my little dog while I'm getting just surrounded by multiple big dogs and frankly waving a stick, and the guy screamed at me and spit at me. So yeah, there's that. You need to realize that that happens out there, whether when you live here. Oh, also, I've heard the yelling and screaming and the dogs going at each other, because when you live here, you have that full sample size and you can hear it, and it sounds scary, and you can hear the other dog owners. So, they sound freaked out, like, oh my dog's gonna get hurt. So anyway, there's I
Thank
guess I
you.
don't have anything more to say, but thank you for your time.
Yeah, Rich, I appreciate that. And I do just want to highlight that because I know there's a few people in here who are fans of numbers. And I think that was one of Rich's points was really relevant, is something to keep in mind to Jim's data collection as well, is the people in support of the leash requirement typically don't visit the property anymore because the use that's there now. So that is definitely something to keep in mind and would be noted. And when I'm talking about there's a standard error for all data collection, that would be a portion of it. That because we don't have that, we can't quantify that. There's no way for us to ask around. I mean, aside from doing a survey mailed to every resident, but again, someone just asked in the comment, it's open to the public. So we're going to survey the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to figure out, or we can isolate it to Harvard and Bolton, but to ask, do you feel comfortable visiting Bowers or not, or some simplification of that question. But the reality of it is we're really not going to get that number or that input. So I appreciate bringing that up, Richard, because I think that's helpful along with your other comments, but I just wanted to highlight that component.
Can I ask if it's possible to consider an area for the people that, basically want a dog park, to give them one, over there? I mean, just to have that area, and then once they're finished with that, if they want to go off on the trails, just realizing that dogs charge ahead. Like, that's just what they're
No,
going to
I
do.
think that was a relevant suggestion as well. And that's definitely something that I had considered. I think one of the commission members who's unfortunately not here this evening had suggested that at a past meeting as well. So the commission is definitely aware of that as an opportunity to consider as they're making their decision as well.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. No, thank you for your comments. Lauren, next up.
Next up is Megan.
All right.
Hi.
Hi. Please
Can
let
you
us
hear me
know.
okay?
Yes, we are. I can.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Yeah, so I am someone who has lived here for all my life. I am 26 years old, and one of my favorite things about Bolton and Harvard is that it does bring a sense of community in here. It does ever since I was little. And what I do find about this policy that has been brought up is that it would really alter the cultural impact. The off-leash environment is definitely something that I have grown up with. I have done all of that all my life, and it has been so prominent, and it does really feel like a cornerstone of Bowers. I cannot tell you enough how much I have experienced in my childhood and even to my day-to-day life, of how much that has impacted my life, whether it is with human beings or with my own dogs. And my own dogs have found such a community, and it has had such an impact in my life of, oh, the dogs that are loving other people, or like human beings, or their other puppy friends. And I absolutely adore it, and it does really mean a lot to me. It's, again, been a part of my life the entire time. So I feel that a change
like an only leash vicinity would really alter the feel of Bowers. Bowers has always been some place that I have always gone to, and a place that I've always been where it's, you know, whether it's dogs or a community or anything. I love the way that Bowers has always been. It's been that way since 1973. And my parents went there. My aunts have been there. I've been there. My entire todo vecino, and they like it's a beautiful place, and it's a place where I feel that should be treasured, and it should be a place of I would like to keep the tradition. I don't think if you feel like to have a difference of differentiating it from another place, because there are plenty of places that do have on-leash dog walking. This is one place that is so special, that has always been in my life, that is really important, and I think it's very something very special to keep. And I find a sense of community. I find a sense of really valuable people that I've never met before, people that I have had connections with that I've never thought I would have. And even my dogs have met the bestest friends in this area. And to continue on that forward, and to have my dogs continue.
Megan, so it sounds like you're in favor or in opposition of the leash requirement, for the reason, just to summarize,
Yeah.
for the support of the community that's there, both for your dogs and the people that you've met throughout your life. Would that be accurate?
Correct.
Okay, great. We appreciate your feedback this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, who do we have next to comment or question?
Next up is New Line.
All right.
Sorry about that. That's the name of my monitor. So my name is Jim Moran. I live on Oak Trail in Bolton. Have done work before the commission as a developer, but I'm trying to represent myself and my family and my dog Theo. I know that a lot of people have had a lot of comments, and I think they're all good. And I think one of the things, there's definitely a huge opportunity for the commission to really build some positive involvement in conservation. Obviously, the amount of people who are here tonight, it's a little overwhelming. And just to speak on Rebecca's comments on how she thinks that we should, give it a 1.5 year outlook to be able to just assess the situation and see if some education, like Dennis Kim has talked about, can really make an impact. I tend to agree with Dennis. I've been going to Bauer for 5.5 years now with my dog Theo and my wife. And I noticed a lot of people here tonight, and I do appreciate the other couple of gentlemen and lady that talk about that it's uncomfortable for a small dog, and they're uncomfortable. So what I did today, after thinking about it a little bit, was, I put together a letter to the commission about would it be possible to do a subcommittee to handle all these concerns and to make adjustments wherever we see as a group. That I would think the subcommittee would push it forward to the commission to help them, because the commission currently is tasked with so much to do. And this is a big drain on their resources. So that's why I would think that, if we could kind of form a subcommittee or an ad hoc committee gather information, help Rebecca out with data gathering, whatever we need to do to represent all the people who would like to use Bauer. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at is I hope the commission would accept my letter and consider forming a subcommittee to handle this task that kind of Rebecca's had made the recommendation to kind of study and do some data gathering over the next year and a half. That's all. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate your comments and did see your letter. I'm sorry, Rebecca, did you have a comment or?
I did. I just wanted to
Okay.
provide a point of clarification here. So I'm not outright recommending the update to rules and regs. I'm stating if the Conservation Commission is not considering the leash requirement, that would be the second option I would suggest. I just want to make that clear. Again, my position in staff as a conservation agent and my professional work that I do in support of the Conservation Commission is specific to the conservation values and assessing them. And having been at these presentations that I've talked about briefly, the resources provided about impacts from dogs on conservation land, just some background, was a dog owner myself. And I love letting my dogs run around off leash or on leash. And my professional opinion and perspective is that dogs have to be under control. They have to stay on trail to reduce erosion, to reduce the dog waste issue, whether that be on leash or effective voice control. I'm informing the commission. I'm not recommending one over the other. So I just want I think a couple people misstated that. I'm recommending that as a second option if the commission weren't to require leash mandate or requirement. So thank you, Brian, for that moment. I just wanted to make sure something wasn't misconstrued there.
Thank you. And again, I'll put it out to the commission too, as far as forming a subcommittee goes. Like I'm not necessarily sure that we need another committee on this one. I would have a fear that anybody who signed up for the subcommittee would be predisposed to kind of wanting to lean one way or another. We've been asking for Conservation Commission volunteers for years and years and years and years, and we never have a full commission. And we're charged with overseeing conservation land. I don't know why we'd want to start like another commission for one specific parcel when for years we couldn't even fill the Conservation Commission. So my fear is that people would go to this subcommittee just because they have a feeling on this issue, and it wouldn't be a scientific based subcommittee of experts that could give us. I mean, there's a ton of studies out there, and I appreciate what Rebecca was saying. If we were to go with the non-leash regulation option to kind of set up to study and monitor throughout the year, and specifically with water samples and other things. But I'm not sure a subcommittee could bring any expert opinion to us that we couldn't already get through what we have. Again, but I will definitely put that out to other commission members after we've gotten through everybody's comments as we continue to discuss. So that said, who is there? The next person who wanted to make comments and or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, go ahead, Mr.
I would just like to talk a little bit on that because I have like 38 years of municipal experience. Subcommittees are very valuable. People do join committees, and like you join conservation for particular reasons, whatever your drive was to have you be the chairman of many years you've been. So yeah, people do join committees for particular reasons. That's what gives them the incentive to do it. And I am a registered environmental health specialist. I have the certifications, and I'm willing to join the committee, and I can give professional free information and guidance to the group. So we would get good data. And again, the idea of the subcommittee is not to steer it in a particular direction or interest. It's to generate information, give the conservation some time to do what all the other stuff that they need to do and do the proper job. So that's the idea of a subcommittee. It's not to steer it in a particular direction. So I severely disagree with you, and I take offense to that actually.
Go ahead.
So, but that's what I wanted to tell you, that it's, subcommittees are very important, and a lot of government works that way, that they push up data. And then it's up to the commission to make, pick and choose that data to see how they're gonna use it. And it's to really help out the commission because they have so much else to do. I mean, you'll see it yourself in meetings that you guys are so busy,
That is
so-
accurate.
Yeah,
We
I'll bring it.
appreciate that feedback, and I don't believe that it was meant to discredit the purpose of subcommittees in general. I understand that why your response was that way, of course, but we appreciate your feedback, and the commission will definitely take that into consideration.
Yeah, without a doubt. I honestly did not mean to insult you at all. But just trying to give my thoughts on subcommittees in general. But again, I'll put it out to the full commission, let them discuss as well. But if we want to get through the initial comments and questions from everybody first, I know there's a number of people that want to make comment. We generally don't like to limit debate, but I generally have a long-standing rule. We're gonna kind of move it tonight. A lot of us work full-time. We have families, lives. I say after a 3-hour meeting, we don't vote on anything after 3 hours because people will vote for anything just to get the heck out of here. We started at 6:30 tonight, so we're only up to about 2.5, but I want to make sure we get through everybody's comments before we can continue the discussion. So please, the next person who has a comment or question, Lauren?
Next up, that would be Julie Ozaden.
Okay, Ms. Ozaden, please.
Hi. Yeah, just want to thank Conservation Commission for all of your work. I'll try to be brief. I'm in favor of keeping it off leash. I try really hard. We've trained our dog a lot, have spent a lot of money and time with classes, and I mean, she's in pretty good control. And I've had very few negative events, mostly all positive, but I really, it's enlightening to hear people's concerns about safety and their level of fear. And I feel like maybe we do need to address that. And that maybe they have the right to carry pepper spray and defend themselves. Because I know there are people, who don't, there are those few dogs, and like I can't remember who said it, the gentleman said, one dog can really ruin it. One dog in 100 is still enough to really make you afraid for you or your dog's safety. So just acknowledging that, but I still hope we can keep it all off leash. The professional dog walkers, I guess that's one thing I want to say. I think they tend to kind of vet their dogs so they have good recall. So I don't know, I don't have a problem with seeing a dog walker who has well-behaved dogs, even if they have like 4 dogs, with one person. So that would sort of, that's just one consideration. There should be more education about dog waste, and maybe just more. I think people don't understand how harmful it is, and I'm always armed with, I can't tell you how many bags I picked up from rattlesnake this winter. It's just awful. But yeah, I think that's all I had to say, that it's, I really value the place for enjoying nature, letting the dog run, socializing, all of that, and really echoing the things that people have said. Thanks.
Appreciate your comments. Next with a comment or question?
Next would be Tim Clark.
All right, Mr. Clark, when you are ready.
Oh, some bad lighting going on here. Sorry. Hey there. I've been a resident of Harvard for almost 30 years, and for almost all of that, I have traveled most of Harvard's conservation lands, a lot of Bolton's conservation lands, and my repeat favorite, obviously, is Bolton, is Bower Springs. I'm also a dog owner. I've had dogs that I could not leave off leash because they just don't pay attention and get into trouble, or they just wander off. And I've had dogs that have had perfect recall, and have had dogs that, require some encouragement. I also find that I've used the conservation land at all hours of the day except after dusk, and in all weather, all times of year. And I will tell you that mostly when I arrive with the dog, there's certainly is, I actually do prefer to walk the dog on leash from the parking lot because I feel that's the most dangerous place for the dog. So I'm 100% supportive of leashes on in the parking lot. There's also that adjustment, dog gets startled by cars and other dogs, dashing in and about. So totally in favor of that in terms of a recommendation for control in those areas. This is not a park. This is conservation land. I've been a strong advocate for all my time in Harvard for protection and purchase of conservation land and making it accessible for a variety of uses, oftentimes passive, sometimes active, depending on the nature of the land and what it's best suited for. I remember a conversation we had, I think, gosh, probably almost 15 years ago about equestrians in Bowers Springs. And there was a whole dust up about horse poop. Now, I think that's a little bit larger, but probably more biodegradable than most dog poop is. But I'm not the scientist here. But I remember they did a lot of improvements to the trail. They had an active group that wanted to have equestrians accessing the trails there, and they actively participated in the, I believe, the widening of some of the trails and the rock clearing and maintenance. They also had a code of conduct that they had in terms of when is the good time to access the trails and knots to prevent degradation. I think there's some the public outreach in terms of advocacy of like what's a good code of conduct for the dogs and their owner in particular. Really, we're talking about owner problems. We're not really talking about dog problems most of the time. I think everybody can agree with that who's had a dog. It's usually the human that needs the work, and the dog is always willing to follow the direction of the human. I also find that sometimes that, most of the time, sorry, when I leave that parking area, there's that field in the front, and then I'm on my own. I will encounter individuals on the trail, but I go there for the walk. I get in, the 1 to 2 miles a day when I go out there, sometimes 3 if you do some creative looping. There are many times that if I'm not there at the peak time, that I'll be the only person on the trail that I encounter, even though there may be 3 or 4 cars in the parking lot. Now, of course, there are other times when it's busy because people want to meet up. They want to socialize. They want their dogs to socialize. So they're definitely, if you're going to do a study of anything in there, I'd say, and I'd even volunteer to sit there in my little lawn chair and with my little clicker and count people throughout the time of the day. And you'll see that nice big fat bell curve of between noon and 2, there'll be a high concentration of people, most of them with dogs. But I'll tell you, the other times when I come, it's pretty empty. I mean, I've walked all over those trails, I think every single trail this way and that way, cut throughs and the same. It's pretty empty most of the time. I certainly appreciate all the help that improvement happens from Boy Scouts and other volunteers, especially in the Bolton section being the larger of the two. And I think if there was a part of a public education program outreach to engage dog owners and helping educate them about sensitive areas, I'd say that the greatest change that's happened in Bower Springs in 30 years is what's happened at the lower pond with the removal of all those trees, be them from dead trees that have been removed by humans or the trees that have been killed by the beavers. I mean, I think there's been a lot of changes, and I've watched the flooding of those lower sections and the beavers building dams and wooded sections becoming swamp again. I mean, that's what I really enjoy is seeing a place so frequently that it's hard to describe that. I mean, I'm very sensitive to that place. I mean, I've taken both of my children there, in the backpacks and on foot, and now they're in their 20s. I mean, it's a really important place to me. Thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate the comments. Lauren, do we have another person with comment and or question?
Next up is Kara Kassner.
All right, Ms. Kastner, when you're ready.
Yep. Hi. Thank you everyone for all your great comments. I can see every side of this, but I'm very much for keeping things the way they are. I've been going there for about 5 years. The last couple has been very limited. I've been on crutches for over 2.5 years now, multiple surgeries, but my husband still brings our dog. And I think in the 5 years I've been going, I've seen one dog fight. Everybody is so responsible for the most part. What I have seen is vandalism by kids. We saw kids there that were fishing, that trashed the beautiful benches that one of our fellow members made. And I feel like that that's a huge problem. I mean, you know, the dogs being off leash. I've had both dogs that can be off leash and not off leash. The one I have now is great off leash. I had a dog before that, you know, he was good on leash, but I couldn't bring him into a place like this because he would be aggressive. So I knew I'm not going to bring my dog to a place like this. You know, I'm not going to bring that type of dog. And that's the type of thing, like, people need to use common sense. And I think we've been really, you know, the people there have been trying to, you know, talk to other people. Like, if you have a dog you can't handle, you know, you shouldn't be bringing your dog here. And if you have, you know, a little dog that doesn't like big dogs, you know that there's going to be dogs off leash. There's a million other places. You know, this place is like everyone's saying, it's a treasure. There's not a place like this, you know, anywhere else. That, you know, there's wonderful people. You know, I've met one of my best friends that I have now there. You know, I can come here, like, I sit in the car with my crutches and watch the dogs playing in the field, like, when I can't get out of the car. And you know, it's, we have to worry about the, you know, the environmental, you know, the how it's affecting the environment. But, you know, if we can do that, do the testing. You know, I work in market research and with data, and, you know, I understand, you know, what we need to do, but, you know, give us a chance to, you know, make these changes, because, you know, not everybody has a big yard. Not everybody, you know, has a place for their dogs, you know, and think about the dogs that, you know, get socialized and that are better dogs as old, you know, as they get older. And, you know, I would just be heartbroken to lose, you know, I'm getting emotional myself, because, like, there's no other place like it. And I just really, really hope that, we can keep it, you know, as it is. And, you know, I think as a group, we'll all try to pitch in and do everything we can, you know, pick up poop. And, you know, me and a couple others, we have the Facebook page going that we started a few years ago that we've been, you know, and we'll, you know, kind of keep that going to talk to everybody and kind of, you know, put reminders out or whatever we can do to keep it the way, you know, the way it is, if we can. So,
A place like that
you
is
know,
important for dogs to
a place like that's important for dogs to socialize, you know, dog parks, to be able to have a place to play, but then can, you know, go off and run on a trail, not have just a tiny, you know, place. I don't like to bring my dog to a regular dog park, because they can't, if there's a dog they don't like or something, you know, they can just run off on the trail. And, you know, a tiny little, like, fenced in dog park isn't, you know, that's not what we want, you know. And I know this isn't a park, but there's so many other places people can go. People can go for walks with, you know, anywhere else, you know. It's, you know, it's just, I don't know. I just hope we can keep it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
No, thank you for your comments. Lauren, is there anyone else waiting to make a comment or question currently?
No other hands are raised at the moment.
Okay, so let me put it out to commission members after hearing from everyone. Anybody have any initial thoughts or anything they're questioning? I should say too, anybody that think the idea of starting a subcommittee, looking at pursuing one of the either DCR regs for a year and restudying or going to leash. I just want to get commission members' initial thoughts, please.
Hey, Brian, I'm happy to go first. I'm in support both of the exploring a subcommittee as well as the year and a half for the study piece.
Okay. Other people have thoughts, comments, questions?
Brian?
Go ahead, Sue.
So, yeah, I'm wary of doing a subcommittee, again, for the point that you made, that we are going to have just a bias right there of people who want to see a certain outcome. So I'm sort of against that. Lots of people had said that having a leash requirement would stop them going to the area and socializing. I don't see how that's possible. I mean, a leash law doesn't mean that you can't go socialize with people. It would mean that your dogs can't run free, but you can still go there and socialize with other people. So I'm not sure I understand that. And then one other thing I would say, somebody mentioned that they've been going to Bowers since the 70s and never seen any problems. The population in 1970 of Bolton was 1,900 people. We're now at 5,700 people. It's a lot more people, means more dogs. It means that also, people are, I think, more outdoorsy now. So there's more people out there who are using the trails. So that's my initial thoughts.
Okay. Other comments, questions, thoughts?
Yeah, Brian, just a quick thought. I'm not in favor of a subcommittee. I'll just put that out there. If we do go with the let's test it for a year, we need a way to measure it, right? And a way to define success or failure, right? So it's a little bit ambiguous. It's a little tricky. If we can figure out a way that we can measure, to first define success, right, and then a way to measure it, then I would certainly be open to that. I just struggle a little bit with how do we measure that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Other comments, questions from commission members? Let's see any. I guess I would say just my initial thoughts, like to Jim's point, like it's somewhat difficult to measure those things. We can measure, there are certain measurables, and again, I think Rebecca went into some of the things we would test. There's also a lot of studies out there conservation wise as to the effects of dogs on properties, and especially large amounts of dogs on properties, that I think we could glean some information from as well, and ways to look at this and how they've done their studies and what rubrics they've used in the past. I tend to agree. I appreciate the offer for a subcommittee, but I'm not sure it would help in this particular instance, in that I think they could come back with recommendations for the property and how to use it, which doesn't hurt, but I think we're getting a lot of those recommendations and how to use it from, we've seen from other towns, professional groups, people coming on, giving comments, people have submitted comments and questions. So I don't really see that need as much. I'm really torn. I think I get the social aspect. And again, I am a dog owner, and whether people own dogs or not is really not the point. And, somebody asking that question, I assume she doesn't own dogs. It kind of brings up what's been bugging me a lot. And I really, as a dog owner, I like to take my dog off leash and love it. I think some dog owners aren't realizing that, like, you're preventing people from using this park. Like, there are people that are scared to death of dogs. And again, that's not your problem, but they have a right to this park as well. And if dogs were under voice command or on leashes, they could use the park safely and effectively. I know we've had anecdotal evidence. We used to bring our dog there all the time. When we had little kids, we had dogs run up to the little kids. Again, when my wife's trying to hold our dog and two kids and two dogs are jumping on them. And it was not a good situation. Again, that's one just anecdotal. So it's very difficult. I really, really do appreciate the social aspect of people going there. I have a lot of dog friends that we do like to get together. But when we go to areas where we have to have our dogs leashed, we still get together. We just leash our dogs. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's kind of where I come down. I don't want to prevent anybody from being able to use the conservation land and dogs, and just the amount of dogs for Jim's evidence and what we've heard from other people and throughout, the amount of dogs that are off leash and just running unattended prevents people from using the park. Leash laws does not prevent dog owners from using the park. It does not prevent dog owners from meeting up at the park and walking their dogs at the park. But no leash law kind of does prevent some people who don't have dogs from using the park, is what we have found through a number of different stories and evidence. That pulls on me too. I'm not really sure the best way to kind of reconcile that. And just the last one too, and I think Rebecca's tried to make this good point too, that it's not a dog park, and I know one of the commenters had this too. It's conservation land. Allowing it to continue the way it is now, and again, taking another year to look at what I think we can see is somewhat happening. I don't think we're doing what's best for conservation. We might be doing what's best for citizens who want to use public resources in a a responsible way. And I hate to prevent anybody from doing that in any way, but I think every single study is relatively clear that we're not doing a good job of conserving this property so that future generations will be able to use it with the same flora, fauna, all of that stuff. It's difficult though. Again, as somebody who's used that property, as somebody who has a dog, I don't know what's the best way to go. Studying it for a year and coming up with actionable items, yeah, that's probably good. If it just confirms what we already believe to be the case, we've just wasted another year where people are afraid to use the park, people are afraid to walk there, people don't want to bring their small dogs there. Abutters are having issues on their properties. It's so frustrating. So I don't know. I'm somewhat up in the air as to what's the best way to proceed. But just curious if there's additional comments or thoughts.
Well, Brian, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sue.
No, go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just going to say, I think all the concerns that are being raised are exactly why a subcommittee is important, because you can get a variety of residents from the town who can look at this over the course of the year and a half, and then can provide kind of some suggestions and some feedback to the committee, so we can make a decision that's informed both on conservation as well as based on the residents of Bolton's desires on how we manage and how we oversee the conservation property. I think to say that we shouldn't have a subcommittee because the residents might be biased, the committee's biased. We're all biased. We all have our biases, Brian.
To be clear, I was trying to say, to pull together a subcommittee, I don't think and I could be wrong, we're going to get a lot of experts in conservation. I think we're going to get a lot of people who have some jobs that touch on it, that either have dogs and love their dogs or really don't want dogs on the park. So I thought, seeing how it's kind of our job, what we volunteer to do is oversee these parks. We've been talking about Bowers since 2016, looked at it again in 2018, looked at it again in 2021. Have looked for public comment, have taken public comment, have taken public people writing in, have talked to our conservation agent who actually does have a scientific background and the town pays for, our land use administrator. I'm fine to, like, if you want more bureaucracy, like, we're going to form a committee and we're going to call for people to join the committee and the committee is going to meet. I don't know. Are we paying for Lauren her time to set up committee meetings and take committee minutes, subcommittee minutes? I mean, who's in charge of the subcommittee? Technically we are, but now we're paying our staff to oversee the subcommittee. And then we're going to take their recommendations and implement them, which would be fine. Again, it's not so much I'm against subcommittees. I just think it's an extra layer of bureaucracy. I don't think we're going to get the experts in conservation that would give us information that would be on a deeper level than we've gotten so far. And again, I could be wrong on that. I'll put it to a vote, but it wasn't simply that I think people are going to be biased. I'm not sure that adding another layer of bureaucracy to this whole thing ends up at a helpful place.
Mr. Chair,
Brian,
I know
let
we're
me-
running to the end here.
Yeah.
Let me
and
suggest,
I know we're focused on the commission's comments at this time. And so I just want to note that Paul had a comment, but also I do want to highlight that the conservation agent from Harvard, who is also staffing this effort from the Harvard side, as she manages or assists in managing the Harvard side of the Bower Spring property, is raising her hand to comment. I just want to highlight that for the chair. Sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was going to say, Paul,
Yeah.
if go ahead.
Yeah, I suggest, because it is so many, perspectives here, that we do a study, like Rebecca outlined as one option for the, 12, 15 months, and give people a chance, give the people who enjoy the park a chance to actually help us maintain the park properly, and take the responsibility that they claim they do truly for a year. We do some information, more information. We do the signage. We help educate, because apparently people who have dogs don't know what dogs create. So let's take that time. We'll revisit, and if it says, and hopefully it's greatly improved, then we can continue. And if it hasn't improved, I think we know our path forward. That would be my suggestion.
Did you have, and I'll ask for Liz, did you have thoughts on a subcommittee? Do you think it would be helpful? Just trying to figure out where we're all standing.
I'm neutral on that
Okay.
subject. If I know subcommittees are helpful in certain environments, not sure it has here, but I'm not opposed if there is a bunch of
Especially if
people who
we're
want to do
taking
that.
the year. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
So I'm sorry, Liz Allard. Lauren, could you ask Liz for her comment and or question?
I'm right here. I can.
There you are. Thank
I
you.
heard you.
Sorry.
I'm sorry for being so late to the meeting. I was actually on a Harvard Select Board meeting, so that ran very longer than I anticipated. So I'm very late to this party this evening. But I just want to say I am very appalled at what I'm reading in the comments, and I think the comments should be shut down. People telling other people to F off in the comments is just it's just appalling. I can't believe people are acting like this on a live public meeting. And that's really all I have to say tonight. I just can't believe it.
Oh, well,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you, Liz, for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah. Thank you. That's Jesus. Okay. Sorry. It looks like Peter Hoffman. Did you have another question?
Wait, can I say something real quick?
I was gonna say, go ahead, Megan, and then Mr. Hoffman, you'll be next if that's all right.
Okay. Oh, was Peter gonna
Megan,
say
go ahead.
Go ahead, Megan. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Again, Bowers again has been it's been a very beautiful place that I've always been. All my life, I've lived here all my life. And Sorry.
Megan, it's okay.
I was
Why
gonna
don't
say you're fine, Megan.
why
Yeah.
don't you provide an email? Just because I know this seems to be getting a little
No, I got it.
emotional.
I got it.
Okay.
I got
Okay.
it. I've lived here all my life.
Do you want to get your thoughts together?
No,
I'll talk real
it's
quickly
cool.
and then,
No,
okay.
that's cool. One of the why it's so special to me is why it's a very special place in my life. I've walked my dogs here all my life. Please don't take that away. It's been a place where I have taken my dogs off leash and has been a place that has been a communicated place for my dog.
No.
Thank you, Megan. We appreciate that.
I'm gonna keep talking.
Okay.
Okay, is this so the
It does.
conservation, you can keep talking, but the Conservation Commission is looking for new input. So does this differ from what you stated previously? So we heard, like, to summarize, that you lived here all your life and you've really enjoyed Bower Springs and the community
Yep.
that exists
Yep.
there and the
Yep.
dogs. And you've really enjoyed the property and the value that that holds throughout
Correct.
your entire
Correct.
26 years of life. Would that be
Correct.
accurate?
Correct.
Okay.
And I
Is-
was just about to say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
It just means a lot to me.
The commission appreciates that insight. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman, did you have another comment or question?
Yeah, I'll make it very snappy. I chair a committee in a neighboring town, so I have a little bit of municipal experience, not anywhere near as much as some of you. But I do think offloading some of the responsibility on a subcommittee would really benefit everyone involved. And I don't think you need professionals to populate the subcommittee. You need information, and then it'll be up to your committee, Brian, to decide what's worthwhile and what's not, and what you decide to adopt or not adopt. So that was my one point. The other point was, unless I missed it, what is Rebecca's opinion of a subcommittee? Did you opine on that?
I don't believe she gave us a comment on that, but Rebecca, if you're willing to comment, or your
And that's
thoughts?
all for me. Thank you.
Sure. In my opinion, it's at the discretion of the Conservation Commission. Similar to Brian's thoughts, where he was, or Paul's thoughts as well, that I do see the value in subcommittees on particular matters. I don't know that that would apply here because of the timeline that we've already been working on this with. I'm not saying I'm in strong opposition to it. I will say it will take staff resources from our current projects to assist with that subcommittee. Not saying that as necessarily a negative, just the reality of the circumstance. And in addition to that, I think there could be value in it, but in terms of helping with collecting some of the data, if it was something that was done over a year, whether that be a leash requirement or a the other option that I had provided to the Conservation Commission. But I'm not necessarily outright for it either, because I feel that across the Commonwealth, other conservation professionals, my counterparts, along with their commissions, have already done this research. No, it hasn't been solely in Bolton, and that's why I was suggesting option 2, so we can collect some of the data specific to this property, not only specific to Bolton, but I believe because we have the data, or rather the insight and resources from those other communities that have been universally the same results, that I don't know that a subcommittee is warranted for this specific matter, but I'm not necessarily opposed to that opportunity should the commission wish to require that or request it.
Thank you. All right. Additional comments, questions right now? Looks like New Line.
I believe Peter Hoffman
Oh,
was first.
I was gonna say, I don't know, Peter, if you had a follow-up.
Oh,
No,
maybe that was just
I just didn't put my hand down. I was just trying to make everyone crazy.
Your hand down. No problem. New Line.
Yeah, so again, my name's Jim Moran, and so I did a little research on kind of the best conservation practices, and what came up was Started Neck, Abigail Adams Park in Hingham. And it's actually interesting enough, it's run by the DCR, and it's an off-leash park. And it allows the dogs to run, and they have the best program. And it's something the DCR put together to give people an opportunity to do what we're trying to do. So I would hope the commission could look at that as an example. And that's just one thing that, a subcommittee can bring forward, is we can do a bunch of research like that. So to help the commission. So that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Additional comments, questions?
Brian, can I make a suggestion that?
Go ahead, Scott.
Being that it's 9:30, that we look to table this conversation as far as with the commission on next actions, potentially to the next meeting.
We could. I think the conservation agent and I think the abutters were looking for what our next step is actually going to be. I think we've taken all the comment now. It would just be a question of which way we want to proceed, or if there is some sort of consensus on which way to proceed. I do take your point. I don't mind. I do take the point of tabling it, but technically we got 5 more minutes until the 3-hour mark. So I was happy to keep going, but I'm curious, conservation members have strong thoughts, feelings one way or the other.
Ryan, I just have to make one point of order.
Please go ahead.
There is an individual, Joel Richmond, on the chat. If you do not act respectful, you will be removed from this meeting because your conversation has, as Liz pointed out, become abusive at this point. And you will be removed if you continue the disrespectful conversation that's been occurring in the comments. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Excuse me. So commission members, what do you think? I mean, Scott, it seems like you would be in favor of us putting those that kind of the DCR recs in place through the end of next August, right? And then simultaneously setting up a subcommittee.
Yes.
That's kind of what I'm getting from you, right? So, Sue, Paul, Jim, where are you? Is there one way you're kind of leaning?
Yeah, I'll give you my perspective, Brian. Again, I did read some of the comments, and it's disappointing, quite frankly, on some of the comments. But where I'm at, this is a conservation area. It's not a dog park. It's just not. And I would be in favor of a leash requirement for Bowers Springs.
Okay.
Go
ahead,
Brian?
Sue.
Yeah,
please.
I'm on the same page with Jim. Yeah, it's not a dog park. And I think Bolton needs a dog park, but this isn't it. And yeah, I think we should do the leash requirement, but I also think that we should do it for kind of revisit it after a year and a half and see if the complaints have gone down. And if it hasn't, maybe we get rid of the leash law at that point, or requirement, whatever.
All right. Paul, you leaning one way or another? Or
No, if I had my vote right now, I would say we need a leash requirement. It's not a dog park, it's a conservation land. I sympathize with the people who don't want to go there anymore. I used to go there a lot myself. I never go to Bower anymore. Luckily, in Bolton and Harvard, we have a lot of land we can go to, so I don't, so I'm okay. I find my way. But we have a responsibility is to manage and protect the conservation land. And right now, I don't feel like we're managing or protecting Bower properly. So I'm leaning more towards the leash requirement now, but I'm open to go the other way and study it for another year if we think that's going to matter. I don't think it matters, but that's my opinion.
Okay. As I said, we don't have any other commission members on, do we?
Well, did you get Scott's insight?
I did.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody kind of gave their initial opinion. I mean, I'm tending to lean more towards the leash requirement, and I know that breaks a lot of people's hearts. I think I was really happy that Sue brought up, if we change what the recs are on this particular conservation property, there's nothing that stops us a year from now changing them back or switching them to something else. You know, for the people that use it all the time, and the abutters, you know, if you can deal with a leash for a year, maybe all the people from faraway towns or professional dog walkers stop using the property. It gets back to where it historically had been kind of more used, and we can look at updating the recs again. Just from what I've heard, and again, it kills me from a social aspect. I don't necessarily agree with this, but from a conservation aspect, I tend to be in favor of the leash requirement at this point. It sounds like if we were to put it to a vote, that would be the way we would go, would be towards that one. So what I would ask is, Lauren, are you able to pull up on your screen, share on your screen, the draft Bolton Conservation Commission guidance for rules of dogs on the Bower Springs conservation land, our latest draft?
Sure. And would that be, Rebecca, would that be the one that you recently drafted based off of DCRs?
This would be the different one. This would be
Brian's talking about the prior draft that was just for the leash requirement, specific to Bowers only.
Now there's option 1 and option 2.
I believe it's the option 1.
So there's one option that has everything in one document. So it's the current conservation land rules and regs with a leash requirement in it. And then there's another option that keeps them separate.
Okay, so yeah, I think it's this first one. All right, does that look like the one you're...
I can't see it yet.
Okay.
Yes, that looks like the one I was thinking.
Okay.
Okay, then that's the correct
one. All right. So this was the wording we had originally gone around with when we had talked about the need to possibly put a leash requirement on for Bower Springs. If you can see what is, sorry, let me just blow it up on my own. The things in yellow basically would be what the updates would be. The big one being that every dog is required to be on a leash and stay on the trails at all times. There was talk of a maximum amount of dogs at any one point in time. I'm not sure if people have strong thoughts, feelings on that. You know, I know people with multiple dogs, more than 2.
Hey, Brian, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Lauren, can you please kick this guy off?
Yes.
Joel Richmond, can you please kick him
off? Yeah, I think it's.
I'm sorry. This is just
Thank
fundamentally unacceptable.
Yeah, I need to stop my screen share just a minute.
Sorry, Brian.
No, it's perfectly fine. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, Jim, for catching that.
And I'm glad I wasn't paying attention somewhat to some of the comments, but
yeah.
No, thank you.
May I jump in for just?
Please go ahead.
Is there no middle ground? And I say this to all of you, not just you, Brian. Is there no middle ground? Losing this privilege, as I said in my early comments, is really, I don't mean to be dramatic about it, but it's kind of tragic. Is there no middle ground, board members?
I have not seen it. I'm happy to keep looking for it. You know, it's been a problem that's been increasing over the years.
What about a 3-month period of probation? Truly, no, I mean, it wouldn't be worded that way, but as the message has gotten out, as the message gets out, these guys are serious and we're gonna lose our right. 3 months, which is the peak months. And then revisit this in 3 meetings. Or I don't know how often you meet, but 3 months from now.
3 months. So end of the summer, right? Basically.
And it'll get out on the Facebook page that one of the folks mentioned. I happen to notice that that's how I learned of this meeting. And it gives us a final warning, so to speak. And it's such a wonderful thing. And to lose it would be really a shame.
But no, I appreciate that. And I'll put your suggestion out to the commission in a minute. I just want to see if there's some other comments coming first, but we'll definitely put that out and see what people's thoughts are on it.
Thank you very much.
Looks like Ms. Lopez, you have another question or a comment?
I don't understand what the purpose was of having the conservation agent come out and come up with a proposal of looking at positive and negative impacts over 18 months if you're still going to come forward with a let's vote no today.
I can provide clarification on that,
Go ahead.
Brian.
Yeah.
So I decided to, as typically is an approach, just like when we issue permits, we draft language that's either issuing a decision or denying a decision. If it seems to be clearly going in one way or another, we might draft it a certain way. And then it would close and then they'd vote at the next one if we weren't sure which way the vote would go. Again, not knowing which way the commission was ranging, they were still waiting to hear on public comment, etc. So I drafted the other opportunity thoroughly, as I tried to do all of my job as respect to the community members of this town, to ensure that the commission had other options as well, that they could consider. That was more of a middle ground, but by no means was that something the commission required. It's just an approach that I typically have when the commission hasn't in past meetings been really direct on one way or another. And most of these discussions have been collecting public comment thus far. And so that's why that was.
But I think your
drafted.
feedback was very valuable. And I think your feedback also comes with the generation of a lot of data that can help determine if maintaining this as the way it is beneficial to both the town and the conservation area, or only beneficial, just for the conservation area. I think that we should have the ability to enact what you recommend over a period of time, generate some data, figure out what are the valuable impacts, what are the negative impacts, and then sit there with all of that, look at it and say yes or no, the rule will change or the rule can stay the same.
Sure, and I respect that insight as well.
Okay. Was there another question, Kara Kastner, maybe?
Yeah, I was just thinking about trying maybe, 4 days, have to be on a leash, and 3 days, maybe a weekend day leash, a weekend day off leash, just so we don't lose this completely. I mean, this is a fraction of, there's people that couldn't be here tonight. And it's, I just feel like this is just, I don't know. I just feel like it's not giving us a chance. These are the first meetings like I've seen. This is the first time like I've been able to be involved. Many of us have really understood what's going on. And I also don't think having a dog on a leash is gonna, they're still gonna poop. There's still gonna be owners that are gonna turn a blind eye, and no, I don't know. I really feel like if we can come to some middle ground, a hybrid, or, I don't know. I mean, I know Groton did kind of the same thing, and theirs was because of one incident with a dog bite, not because of dog poop. I mean, and it ruined it for everybody. But you know, you go there and it's still, everybody's still off leash. And I think I think the group here is respectful enough that we're gonna, look at each other when we see people, not picking up poop. And, we have a Facebook page that, Jen and Paul and I, have, that we can communicate with each other. I mean, you have a committed group here. I don't know. I just feel like I understand, like, if we're ruining it, and after 3 months, a year, whatever, okay, but like, let's see the numbers, and like, I don't know.
No, I take your point and I appreciate the comment too.
Brian, could I say something else?
Please go ahead, Sue.
So, after hearing a few people, like, I like this idea of maybe doing 3 months before we enact a law or enact the rule. Sorry, I'm using rule and law
No, it's all right.
interchangeably right now. But maybe having this 3 month period, people can relay to other people, like, hey, this leash thing might, it might go away if we can't clean up our act, and see how that goes. I mean, maybe that is a middle ground.
I appreciate the input. Yeah, that it makes sense too. What was I saying?
So long as you give us clear instructions as to what is the priorities for the board or the committee, because then we'll focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, the big one is removing your dog's waste or your other dog's waste, keeping dogs on trails, and also respecting the other individuals who are using the park. That, again, I love dogs. I would love to talk to your dog. Please understand, there are people that are scared to death of dogs, and for good reasons. And regardless of the reason, like, when your dog goes running up to somebody, and it's such a wonderful community at Bowers, and again, I love dogs, I don't have a problem with it. Understand that that person might be scared to death, and you get your dog under voice command immediately. Get it off that person, get it away from them, out of their yard. And what kills me is like, I think the people who showed up here tonight, it's like preaching to the choir. Some of you I know or have met. Most of these people are extremely responsible dog owners, and really great at picking up, like you said, their own garbage and the garbage of others. But it's not just the people on here tonight that use the property.
I think we'll get the message. We'll get, if the board considers what Sue just suggested, I think we'll get the message out. Now, if we fail, it's our bad.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Sorry,
thank you for reconsidering.
So let me ask specifically Jim and Paul, how would you feel about a 3-month pause right now?
Yeah, I'm certainly open to that for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And let me try this again. If we were to do that, I think we would go to look at those leash requirements, the drafted one we have, and make sure that's kind of, the draft is in a good format, regardless of which way we choose to go. So if people are trying to put information out there to their fellow dog owners saying, hey, look, they're looking to take this away, possibly, if people can't start behaving, that they can show them what the updated recs might look like, or this is the updated recs they're currently considering. If we can't show improvement in the next few months. And Rebecca, I'm not sure if we'd be able to publish something like that, or put that out as like draft recs.
Yes, we can definitely, and we've done so in the past.
Okay.
Not necessarily ones that the commission hasn't voted or isn't working to put in place.
Yeah.
But certainly as sort of a public service announcement and public awareness, I think that's fine and applicable. I have, I guess, 2 questions for the commission. The first, and I guess the most important is my suggestion on basing the data collection on a year, or the information collection on a year, was to also accommodate for natural environmental implications that sometimes impact. So like I had mentioned briefly, snow melt can impact the load that's in the water that you're sampling from. So my concern is that it's such a small period. I'm happy if it's at the commission's discretion. I'm happy to support you in whatever way that is. My concern is that it's too short of a period of time when it comes to some of those impacts. We can do it, and I'm very happy to, but I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the task from the commission.
To be clear, it would not be 3 months in which you're trying to get all of this information and data. It would kind of be more of a 3-month period where the idea of self-policing or people trying to get the word out and showing people what the change will be, hopefully changes behaviors. That is way too small of a sample size. I'm not expecting yet. And again, that would, that would tie into where, and that could be something too, where if we hold off for 3 months, that we just we end up calling for that type of study anyways.
Okay, so you're holding off on that sort of a study, but you're focusing on what you just described. Additionally, focusing on public education of the current rules and regs that we have is what it sounds like you're thinking of for 3 months.
It sounds like commission members would be kind of in favor of that. And if I'm speaking it correctly, please, speak up, anyone.
So, and obviously I know you have to get the commission polled on that as well, but one thing the second, I guess it's not a question, it's more of a comment. I'm seeing the Facebook page being brought up quite a bit. Obviously, public communication is really helpful. Please pull it from the town website directly, links or specific documents, to ensure you're receiving the most up-to-date information and putting that information out so there's not misinformation. You can obviously publish what you want on your own site, but that's my suggestion. Working for the town and the commission, that's commonly an issue that we have, is some miscommunication. Additionally, specific to miscommunication, I want to make sure that people are aware of the property being a conservation land parcel and managed as such, not a dog park. And I think that's really misconstrued through conversations as well. And that's really going to help, I think, across the board, communicating that to the public, regardless of what the commission chooses to do. I think changing that conversation, I think, will do a lot for both the dog walking community and people who want to utilize the property without dogs as well. Sorry, Brian. Thank you.
I appreciate you clarifying and putting that word in as well. So that said, and I just want to hear one last time from commission members, people be comfortable with that, us tabling this, and we don't even have to, we can say 2 months, 3 months, but for several months, in order to give some people a greater chance to with their educational campaign to try to self-police it.
Brian, I'm in favor of that. And actually, this will give people, I don't know, friends of Bowers Springs to get engaged and help us, maintain the property properly and help, so I would encourage everybody who loves to be there to do the right thing and take these months to help us make this property in a better shape than it is right now.
I would ask that the conservation agent, staff, Brian, whoever, report to us, not me personally, but the users, each and every complaint or each and every issue. If we don't know it's an issue, we can't address it. Somehow that information is going to get conveyed to the users. Otherwise, this 3-month period is for naught.
Rebecca,
what I would suggest, Brian.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to do it. Again, just noting that I think it's relatively minor resource shift, but time will tell. I am happy to start basically a little spreadsheet at Bowers in the kiosk that is updated on a periodic basis during the 3-month period that notes what violations have been reported to the conservation staff and document it that way, and it will be transparent. I don't really like the visual of that, but I think hearing from the community, if the commission's hoping to do that, I think that's a very clear and transparent way of providing feedback to the community who utilizes property as a whole, not just one particular user group, along with keeping track of, we're going to be keeping track of that anyway. So I'm fine with sharing that in a table format and posting it to the kiosk.
Could you share it digitally? Because I personally walk right by it.
So I'm communicating it this way because I'm happy to do it that way so that it's shared with the public that utilizes the property. If there's another way that the commission would prefer I publicize that information, I'm happy to do so. But I think when we get to sending it to individuals directly, I think we lose that higher level of transparency. And I want to make sure, because that seems to be important to all users on the property right now during this discussion. I think that's going to be very helpful.
Rebecca, here's just a question. If we had put, let's say we put on our agendas going forward, an update on Bowers Springs progress or Bowers Springs whatnot, in theory, then we would have something in our public meeting where we could bring up any complaints or issues you had gotten, right? And then it would also be it would be available to the public because it would be part of our public meeting packet.
Yep.
Right. So in theory, that's a place, if we were to do that, then it would be available digitally to individuals. I mean, they might have to ask for it.
Leaving it as an agenda item, Brian? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, as an update on Bowers Springs, and it would be a in theory that would allow people to get it digitally, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, is this something that I think that would be appropriate, Brian.
Rebecca, could I make a suggestion?
Yes. Yep. You might be thinking what I'm thinking.
If we're posting a chart in the kiosk, we could also have an electronic version of that chart on the website under the conservation page.
That's what I was trying to think of, where we're sort of now having an internal conversation during the public hearing meeting. So sorry, but that's what I was thinking, is putting it somewhere on the town website for people to view and download if they needed to. But that's, I don't see that as an issue if the Concom wants to say they want that.
Brian, would you be willing to post it or have staff post it to the Facebook page? Because I think that's the most.
We don't do Facebook.
I was just saying, we don't do Facebook.
We don't publicize on social media.
We're not gonna start.
Certainly, anyone from the community can pull it from the town website if it's posted there onto their own respective pages. That's something that we've seen done in the past for sure.
Okay, so it sounds like, and commission members correct me if I'm wrong, that we're going to be tabling this discussion. We said 3 months. I would say at least 2 months, but probably 3 months before voting on, deciding whether we're going to vote on a change to the rules and regs, or if we think everything should stay the same, or if we think we should change the rules and regs to mirror to what DCR had and start a year-long study, basically. Does that make sense to individuals?
Yep.
Okay. So that said, I think we are done with discussion for this evening. Members of the public who came tonight, first of all, I want to say there are people on total opposite sides of this particular issue, and it's been wonderful. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, most people have been extremely respectful in talking with the commission and talking with each other, regardless of what side they fall on. I'm sorry we had an individual who kind of fell out of that this evening, but I appreciate everybody's civility in talking through this. And we will continue to try to get in more data, give it a chance for an education campaign to work, and then look to move forward from there. Any other comments, thoughts from commission before we table this for the time being?
I have one last question.
Please,
What frequency do you want that table updated? Specifically posted to Bowers. I just want to make sure there's a standard set that we're following.
Well, yeah, my first thought would be weekly. I don't want to say daily. I'm just trying to think time wise, and getting you out there once a week to update it makes sense. I mean, at the very least, it would be bi-weekly, meeting the schedule, meeting the
That's
conservation meeting schedules. Sorry, but weekly would be excellent.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
All right. Other comments, questions, thoughts right now? None. All right. We've already approved minutes. I don't think there were any other updates. The orange flag survey at Bowers Springs, speaking of dog waste, was completed at the end of March. There's some information in the folder about that. Did mention our Environmental Day related events are all on the website. Please check them out. We still do have an open land steward position. And I think that's all I have. Lauren, is there anything I missed?
I don't think so. I think you got it all.
All right. Commission members, any new business or anything you would like to see added to the agenda for next time? Seeing none. All right. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn our Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for adjourning?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Sue.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
everybody.
Have a good night,
2 weeks.
everybody.
Take care.